Remember Hunter x Hunter? It's that anime where a child is abandoned by his father, becomes friends with a child assassin who was tortured by his family, and put needles in his brain to control him. They go on an adventure and get hunted by a psychopathic clown. They get their limbs blown completely to bits, fighting against a mass murderer inside of a video game, and then they take on a horde of man-eating ants who are only defeated after being attacked by a nuclear bomb and irradiated to death. That was a children's show, right? Or at least you might think it was if you had read some of these reviews that I read. Seeing all the other reviews that rate the series 10 out of 10, I can only assume that they were written by kids. I don't think an adult person could tell me with a straight face that this is actually great. Is this supposed to be great? So much unnecessary explanation and narration, it sickening. Such a stupid, so only for edgy kid. I hate this kind of show. Take note, I'm still a child because I liked this. I'm stupid because I watched this. 3 reviews, all saying that if you like this, you must be a child. All written like they were written by children. Ironically, I can't imagine an adult actually writing any of this. And I do think it's mostly kids that call other people kids for not liking a show that they like, or for liking a show that they think is stupid. I'm currently watching through Hunter x Hunter for the 3rd time, so you could say I'm a bit of a fan. And I kind of was curious to see what other people think of it. What are the reviews online? Do people really like Hunter x Hunter as much as I do? And I came across some of the worst, most brain-dead reviews I think I've ever seen in my life for any show ever. I can understand not liking a show, but some of the wild takes these people have and complete misunderstandings of the show absolutely blew me away. And I felt like I just had to share them with other people. I can't be the only one who thinks this is as weird as it is, that these people think this way. Okay, so we're going to dive into a lot of the really bad, completely brain-dead, horrible, worst takes I've ever seen reviews of Hunter x Hunter. But before then, I thought it was fair to take a look at some of the fair criticism that I found. So let's just take a quick moment to just give fair analysis to all of the actually genuine criticism of the anime that I did manage to find. And we're done. Hunter x Hunter is clearly a show that divides people. Unbelievable. 10 out of 10. It is so deep and smart to the point where I'm doubting if this was made by a human. Just wow. And then we have, is this supposed to be great? Bad story, bad character design, average character development, unfinished arcs. Unfinished arcs? What arcs are unfinished? The anime finished all the arcs. The only arcs that are unfinished are the ones that the actual manga hasn't finished because the writer has horrible health problems that makes it impossible for him to continue writing for extended periods of time. Average character development, bad story, bad characters. This is just madness. For a person who wants to watch intimidating story and plotlines. What is an intimidating story? Who's intimidated by a story? This anime is worse than garbage. It's all bark and no bite. The premise is a boy on a quest to find his dad. It's just not appealing at all. The character design is some of the worst in the whole of anime. The main character's hairline is so bad. Who cares? It's like a 10-year-old. Why do you care about his hairline? The decisions of varying characters are out of order for their development. Someone who wants to fight strong guys is running after kids to give him a satisfactory fight. Someone who is trying to save his brother is trying to kill his brother. Someone who wants to overtake whole world spends most of his time playing board games with a blind girl. How can you have that many bad takes in a row? Jesus Christ. Someone who wants to fight very strong guys is running after kids. Not because he wants to fight them as kids, but because he knows the potential they have to be strong fighters in the future and therefore give him a satisfactory fight. Someone who is trying to save his brother is trying to kill his brother. He must be talking about Illumi and Killua. But Illumi never tried to kill Killua, ever. In fact, he tried very hard to keep him out of danger and make sure he would never take on any fights that he couldn't win, which was an entire character arc for Killua in the show. This guy wasn't watching the same show, clearly. Someone who wants to overtake the whole world spends most of his time playing board games with a blind girl. I think it's pretty obvious why Meruem was so obsessed with strategy games, despite the fact that he was trying to take over the world. This is a creature that believes itself to be superior to all other beings, even among its own race. Believes itself to be the best at everything, in every way. And we're talking about not just any random board games. They're not playing Monopoly here. They're playing games of strategy, games that are known to test your intelligence and be a battle of wits. It's a way of him proving to himself that he is superior by taking on all these humans that are the best in the world, learning the game in a few days and being able to beat them. So when he encounters a girl that looks like this and acts so stupid and undignified, the complete opposite of what he imagines an intelligent, superior being to be, and yet he can't beat her no matter what. The fact that he can't beat her, no matter how hard he tries, and that no matter how good he gets, she gets even better. That his best strategies that he can come up with are strategies that she came up years ago when she was even younger. This is not just him playing a game with a little girl. This is him battling his own sense of superiority as a superior being. He has to come to terms with the fact that there are some things that he isn't the best at, and that these inferior humans are actually better than him at. Which is why he spends so much time playing board games, because he is trying to deal with that fact that he's discovered. I don't know what the person who wrote this problem is with the show. All of his criticisms are kind of baseless. I feel like maybe he just doesn't like it for another reason, but wanted to sound more valid in his criticism, so he just made this stuff up. Anyone who thinks about the show for a bit would realize these are dumb reasons. The main character's hairline being bad is not a good reason to not like a show. By that logic, Dragon Ball must suck as well. Look at Vegeta. That guy does not have a good hairline. These are just shallow takes and misunderstandings of the actual story. Very slow for me, who watched Dragon Ball Z, Hajime no Ippo, Bleach, and many more. Wow. It really must have been slow for this guy. If he watched Dragon Ball Z and thinks this is slower. Dragon Ball Z, which had the fight between Goku and Frieza, which went on for 19 episodes. One of the longest fights in all of anime. Dragon Ball Z is one of the most drawn out shows when it comes to fights. And I like Dragon Ball Z, don't get me wrong. It's a great show. But to say that this is slow compared to Dragon Ball, or to say you don't like it because it's slow, but you do like Dragon Ball, that is just bizarre. When does it get less childish? I don't know, maybe when Killua rips out a guy's heart and puts it into a little bag, like just a few episodes in. Maybe when like 90% of the characters die within the first arc. Maybe then. Maybe when they start getting hunted by a psychopathic clown with very weird intentions. I can't stand to read any more of these terrible reviews. So instead, I'm just going to defend Hunter x Hunter for the rest of the video. The first thing that comes to mind that makes Hunter x Hunter stand out above other shonen anime and other anime in general are the villains in Hunter x Hunter. It has exceptional villains. Even the people giving bad reviews oftentimes had to give credit to Hisoka for being such a good villain. The character designs for the villains are really interesting. They're unique. Their motivations are interesting as well. I mean, Hisoka's motivation of being willing to fight, just wanting to fight people, that's a pretty common trope in anime. But the way they do it with Hisoka is just way more interesting, because his personality is so unlike any of what those characters are normally like. The characters that are obsessed with fighting are more like Zaraki Kenpachi from Bleach, who are just these like big, burly, aggressive guys. Having this like weird, creepy killer clown be obsessive instead just makes it so much more interesting and also scary. He's a way more terrifying villain than someone like Kenpachi was in Bleach. Another great villain is the Phantom Troop. I'm kind of counting all of them as one villain, because I think that they're most interesting because of their dynamic together, rather than individually being interesting. The arc with Kurapika against the Phantom Troop could have been its own anime, in and of itself, and it would have done really well. It would have been a great anime. People would really enjoy that. It had enough there that it could pull that off. And it was just like a side arc in Hunter x Hunter. Lastly, possibly the best villain, or at least one of the best, is Meruem, someone who some of these reviewers criticize, but is actually definitely one of the best villains, because he's one of the most interesting, because they actually did him right. You have this superpowered ant creature which is only like a few weeks old, right? So it's basically a baby by human terms. It has no experience with the world, but it believes itself to be superior because it was just born to believe that. But when confronted with the reality of this girl being superior to him in some area, he has to try and deal with that, and he just ends up changing so much over such a short period of time. He's this existential threat to all of humanity, with his ability to make more queens, which could eventually lead to the entire human race being like outnumbered and overrun by these ants. But he also starts to change and become more respectful. And if he had lived, he might have changed enough that he was no longer an existential threat to humanity. But he was such a risk at the time that they couldn't take that chance and just had to kill him any means necessary. And we didn't manage to defeat him in combat, right? There was no human that was able to best him. We just had to destroy him with something that he had no knowledge about, which was just a nuclear bomb. If he had more experience and he was aware of these weapons, we might not have been able to defeat him. But maybe if we didn't, maybe he would have learned to not be such a threat, to not seem so superior, to not want to wipe out humans or rule the world. And so the way it ends just leaves you questioning what would have happened had he not died. We never got to fully see what he was going to end up as because he was such a big threat. And that, I think, is really interesting. It's not just the villains that are great in Hunter x Hunter. The characters in general are great. They have way more interesting character arcs than most other shonen anime. They are more complicated. They have more interesting motivations. They're emotional. They don't just stick to the plan. They make decisions in the heat of the moment that don't always make sense because that's realistic. That's what people do in those situations. They don't just follow the plans. They actually just mess up and make mistakes due to emotion, which happens a lot in Hunter x Hunter. The power system is really interesting. One of the things that makes Hunter x Hunter unique is the fights. What makes the fights interesting is the power system. The Nen, the 5 different categories of people that you have. It creates a lot of depth to the combat that you don't get in other ones. And it means that when characters win against opponents that are stronger than them, it actually makes sense. If Goku wants to win a fight, he just needs to go another level of Super Saiyan, and then he wins. And we kind of know what's going to happen. It's predictable. We always know how Goku's going to win. Same in Fairy Tail, we always know how they're going to win in Fairy Tail. They just get really emotional, and then they become way stronger. In Hunter x Hunter, they actually need to either train or use some kind of technique or condition to make their powers stronger. And it makes sense because those are the rules that were set out from the beginning. That's part of what made the arc with the Phantom Troop and Kurapika so interesting. There's a lot of things that make Hunter x Hunter a great anime. I could go on about it all day. I'm not going to do that because I don't want this video to be too long. But Hunter x Hunter is a great anime. It is definitely not an anime for kids. Would not recommend to let your kids watch it. Hopefully these reviewers will give the show another chance at some point and actually see that it's quite a good show. So that's it. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like, and if you would like to see more, please feel free to subscribe.